I've got the borders of this plate carve, so moving on now to the rest of the rosette. You can see I got a start on the big outer chips already. So since these four parts of the center rosette are the same as the border that I've already got a video for, I'll go ahead and just do these kind of flowery sections here. I always think it's kind of fun doing patterns like this that are interesting and somewhat intricate, but you can still see the clear foundations of the principles of chip carving. So in this case, just a basic two-sided crescent shape, one of the kind of standard beginning things that you learn how to do, but being used as part of this pattern that really works well and looks a lot more interesting than you would necessarily think from just doing a simple two-sided chip. This one's a fairly large chip that I would consider doing a relief cut on first, but we'll see how it goes on this first run. See if I need to make any adjustments and do a relief chip on subsequent sections. That one turned out well. I just see, but a little bit of a extra bit to remove in here. That may change as I do the opposite grain area on this, on whether or not I need to do a relief chip, but at least for this one it's working fine. And right there I started to get a bit too far off the line. I was carving into my ridge too much, so I'll just pull a knife out and restart that cut. Something a little bit funky going on with the grain right here. It keeps kind of doing things with a knife I'm not wanting, so fighting that a little bit. go. These pattern lines are maybe a little bit thicker than they need to be, so I'm gonna prefer to cut off as much of the lines as I can, just so it's less work at the end to erase them and less risk of damaging the wood and the ridges as I do so. Kind of a balancing act, at least for the way I do the patterns, to make sure that the lines are thick enough and dark enough that I can easily see what I'm doing when I'm carving, but at the same time not excessively dark that it's a burden to remove them once I'm done. You'll notice the dots on these chips. Nothing real significant there, nothing to do with the actual carving. It's just to remind me from the time that I'm designing and printing out the pattern to the time that I'm actually carving, to remember which chips get printed or which chips get carved out. Different people do that differently. Some people actually draw the kind of crease lines, and you'll see some patterns that, if you look online, that kind of have these sorts of lines already in there, and so then that'll tell you that those are the ones that you cut out. I just put a simple dot in the middle of all of the chips that I'm going to be removing, so I don't carve out the wrong sections. These ones, even though the going across the grain instead of along the grain requires more effort, it's kind of harder to do the carving. It's easier to carve a straight line because there's not the same kind of resistance fighting what the grain wants to do. It's all kind of an even feel between the knife and the wood. So actually, I find anyway, easier to carve straight lines going across the wood like this, across the grain, as opposed to along it.